All right, so we're going to start the last two sections of not only Unit 9, but the course. And this one's going to focus on energy and ecosystems. We're going to talk about energy pyramid and the rule of 10% and how that affects not only energy, but also biomass that we see at different trophic levels. Energy flow. So, of course, we know this by now. All energy on Earth comes from the sun. Energy flows through ecosystems from, I should say, sun and is used by organisms for metabolism and homeostasis. Only a portion of the energy from the sun, man, that's two typos, is used by organisms. Much of it is lost as heat. And we've touched on this. I'm going to go ahead and fix this while I'm talking. We've touched on this a few times in class. Heat is the most common form of energy, but it is very unorganized, meaning that living things can't use it. Even though you feel it, it's not a usable source of energy. So sunlight is very organized in comparison, and we have learned multiple times that plants use this through the process of photosynthesis, and that's how that energy enters the ecosystem or the food web. So producers are going to be organisms that produce food from sunlight, and some organisms, of course, do chemosynthesis. So photosynthesis, of course, is the process of using light to make food, and chemosynthesis is the process of using chemicals to make food. Consumers are anything that eat other organisms. You and I are consumers. We have to eat things. We can't produce our own food. Most livestock, all livestock rather, are also consumers. They can't produce their own food. Excuse me. Now, so if we're talking about different types of consumers, one type is, of course, herbivores, and herbivores consume only plants or plant material. Carnivores are organisms that only consume meat. Omnivores are consumers that eat both meat and plants. We would be considered omnivores. Detritivores are consumers that eat dead material and begin the decomposition process. Decomposers are going to be organisms that break down any organic material into the basic components that are going to replace nutrients in the ground. The most common examples of these are fungi and bacteria. Bacteria play a lot of different roles in the ecosystem, not only breaking things down, but we also talked about the fixation of nitrogen and other nutrients through those relationships that they have in the roots or the mycorrhizals. All right, so a food chain shows a single string of relationships in an ecosystem. So this is when we're just looking at maybe one particular organism. Okay, let's say we're studying the hawk. Okay, and we're producing a food chain of just the things that the hawk interacts with on a daily basis. In comparison, you have food webs, and the food web is going to show all of the interactions within a community. Okay, so you'll have apex predators, you have tertiary predators, you have secondary predators, you'll have primary producers, and it shows how they all interact with each other. Big piece there is if a piece is removed, a food web shows how that will affect the entire community. All right, trophic levels. So the feeding level in the community has a couple different names. So the biggest one is going to be the producers, which is like grass. Then you have primary consumers, and these are typically going to be herbivores. They eat the primary producers. Then secondary consumers are going to eat the primary consumers. Tertiary consumers are going to eat other consumers, and then that should say apex predator is going to be the top of the food chain, so to speak, or the top of the food web. It's the head honcho as far as eating is concerned in a community, has no natural predators. So pyramids can show these relationships, and it can also give a good representation of how much of each of the substances are passed on from one level to the next. So ecological pyramid shows how energy decreases towards the top of the food web. Organisms only receive about 10% of the energy from the previous food level. This is what we know or call is the rule of 10%. So the energy pyramid shows the distribution of energy from the top to the bottom of the food web or chain, with each successive trophic level only receiving 10% of the energy. So you'll notice that the producer or the base of the pyramid is a lot wider than the tertiary consumers. And that is because the amount of energy that is lost from down here all the way up to the top. Okay, so it's not a direct relationship. So there's going to be less tertiary consumers than there are primary consumers or even producers because of the amount of energy that is available. Very similar is the biomass pyramid, and it shows the distribution of biomass from the top to the bottom of the food web or chain. Since only 10% of the energy is available, there is only 10% of the biomass in the next, I should say next trophic level. The biomass is the amount of dry organic material. Sorry, I'm fixing typos as I'm doing the video, which is multitasking. So again, a oak tree, which is a primary producer, is a lot bigger or a lot larger rather than a sparrowhawk or any other type of bird. Numbers pyramid still follows the same trajectory. So on average, each trophic level only has 10% of the numbers of the previous trophic level. A lot more trees in the world than there are lions. And that is the end of 9.5. There is a form. Be sure you complete the form. And tomorrow we will do the last section of the course. Thank you.